Okay, Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshunamilitanjena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Pravajantam Anupeta Apeta Krityam Rapayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Binedus Tam Sarvabhutam Hridayam Munimanatasmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Avatya Vihina Parada Lakshai Kiptascha Kamari Tarangamadye Kripa Maitram Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanara Vindam Tave Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayanam Charanandike Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we are going to continue hearing the Sri Caitanya Siksamrta by Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And we begin by offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padmanita Bhavishta, Om Vishnupadasto Tarasat Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, and Sri Guru Pada Padmanita Bhavishta, Om Vishnupadasto Tarasat Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, under our exalted Rupanuga Guru Varga, and to all these Sambhu Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis. So, those who have been following know that we've been reading from the 7th chapter, 7th Rainfall, which is deliberations on Ras, and we've been hearing the progression of the different rasas, the different sthayi-bhavs in the heart of the devotee. And it began with Shanta Ras, and then we went to Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and ultimately now we're hearing about Madura Ras. And this is also discussed in Jaiva Dharma in somewhat more detail, at least so far. I don't know what's going to happen beyond this. But to read them together side by side, because they describe these a little bit differently. And so it gives us different angles to approach this understanding. It's actually really nice. I was just hearing, what chapter was it? Was it 27, 28? About this same subject. Oh, I know. It was, see, what they were doing was spending a great deal of time talking about the anubhavs of the different rasa. How are these expressions, external expressions of devotion and love revealed in the different rasas, right? And what are the udipans? What are the different stimuluses in these different rasas? It's quite delightful, actually. So now, anyway, yesterday we heard about the two kinds of expressions of Madura Rasa, Swakiya and Parakiya. Swakiya being married love, Parakiya being unwedded love, and in Parakiya there were the pati, the husband, and the upapati, the lover, right? And we heard quite clearly that in the reflected material expression of conjugal love, conjugal relationship, that the unwedded love is contemptible, quite objectionable. It's against Dharma, because in this world we're learning focus, sense control, activities in devotion to Krishna. The activities of conjugal relationships in this world are forgetful. of Krishna. They're just very high expressions of sensual pleasure. Now, they can be regulated by dharma, right, and used for purification, but that requires the wedded love or the wedded relationship. And so he was making the clear distinction between the two. And now he's going to follow up on that so that we understand that in the conditioned state we may observe the activities of Radha and Krishna, or not observe them, hear about them, and find some fault, some defect, because the only experience we have is the material, right? And so we can't help but see things in that light as long as we're conditioned and identify with the false ego and our body and others' bodies and this world around us. We don't have that higher vision yet, so this is being clarified for us. So the next section of this is titled, "The Parakiya Mood of the Gopis is Completely Faultless." And because we want to understand how everything that the gopis do is solely for the happiness of Krishna, for the pleasure of Krishna, for the benefit of Krishna. And their love, their mood is always done completely selflessly, always favorable towards Krishna, even when it looks, in the pastimes, similar to the mundane. They're arguing, they're criticizing, they're neglecting, but it's all love play on the highest level. So, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, there is not even the slightest fault or shame in the parakiya mood of the gopis. The criticism and condemnation of women who have illicit lovers or who are prostitutes that we hear from material commentators occur within this world and are not applicable in this case. The parakiya ras, which the gopis of Gokula and their eternal potencies of the Lord. So the parakiya ras, which the gopis of Gokula taste in Goloka, is most praiseworthy. Sri Krishna Chandra, the topmost transcendental relisher of ras, Rasik Shekhar, in order to bring the taste of this ras to the material world, descended to Gokula with his most beloved gopis from the spiritual world of Goloka. What is the fault in this? Right, so that's an important point, and it's emphasized in the Caitanya Charitamrita, when in the fourth chapter of the Adi Lila, when Krishna's Kaviraj is describing Krishna's sentiments. And this is in relationship to Mahaprabhu also, what he came to reveal to us and what he came to taste himself. And Krishna is saying that when I come as Krishna, I'm coming to taste this delightful love exchange with the gopis that has never been shown in this world before. And that means within every day of Brahma, and which is the topmost, quite extraordinary. And by Yogamaya's potency, neither myself nor the gopis will understand anything about my being God, right? And so this will be a very extraordinary experience. And I want to show that to the world as well, to attract them to this possibility, that this is their aspiration as well, to enter into Goloka Vrindavan and to have love exchange with me. But then he explains that, so he wanted to bring this taste. So this is described also in Caitanya Charitamrita. What is the fault in this? Sri Krishna is not a material hero. And all of this was done only for the auspiciousness of the souls in this world. If he had not done so, then how could they taste that most excellent Madura Rasa and become eligible to attain it? It is necessary that the devotee becomes a gopi only in order to serve Krishna by this Madura Rasa. The cheating and illicit debauchees who will attempt to become Krishna and enjoy this ras will most certainly and rapidly be thrown into hell. Only the most depraved, debauched, and duplicitous persons commit this offense. Right. And during the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, this was not unknown, that there were persons who would take on the role of the hero. There was that famous debauched yogi. What was it? What was his name? Anyway, he was accumulating women from even high-class families in Bengal, claiming himself to be an incarnation of Krishna Bhagavan. He was going to take over India, and he was engaging in this so-called Rasa Leela, to the consternation of society. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as the magistrate in this area, was requested to stop all this, put a stop to it, which he did. He had this person arrested, and even though this yogi had great mystic power and was apparently able to inflict severe sickness on Bhaktivinoda Thakur and his family, still Bhaktivinoda Thakur persevered and overcame this person. Ultimately, this person died in jail. But this is very bad. So Krishna himself came to taste it, but also he says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that unless I show this, how can it be understood by the conditioned souls? I mean, how could you possibly imagine anything like this? And then furthermore, after Krishna's pastimes ended and we entered into the Kali Yuga, these were largely forgotten and again misunderstood. So he said, now I have to come to teach it myself and to teach it by tasting it as well. So his external purpose was to spread the Yuga Dharma in the special chanting of the holy names of the Lord, this Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. But within the mantra, it's the complete love exchange between Radha and Krishna. Hare, Radhika, and Krishna. And if you read the commentaries of Jiva Goswami, Gopal Guru, and others on this Hare Krishna mantra, you find extraordinarily deep meaning of the names of Radha and Krishna and what they mean in relationship to each other. And so he came to teach this Yuga Dharma, Hare Krishna, but by this chanting of the mantra, being able to access and awaken or gain entrance into Braj Prem. See? And so by doing that, he was also tasting it himself. And by tasting it in the mood of the devotee, coming as Lord Chaitanya, Krishna himself, covered by the moods and imbued with the devotion of Srimati Radhika, reflected in her golden complexion, completely immersed in the mood of a devotee, he was tasting and also teaching. All right? So, there's a verse here. Only the most depraved, debauched, and duplicitous persons commit this offense. What's the verse? It says here, it's from the Sahitya Darpana. Learned persons are saying that the illicit relationship of a woman with a man other than her husband is most improper within this material world. But the parakiya mood that Krishna shares with the Braja Gopis is without fault. Without any doubt, Sri Krishna is Avatari, the source of all incarnations, and he is Rasik Shekhar, who came here to taste Ras. Thus, Parakiya Ras is for Krishna, not for the minute jiva. And also, as the teacher, Mahaprabhu was showing, he adopted the role of a sannyasi. And he had absolutely no connection as a male sannyasi with any ladies at all. He's very, very strict, as were his followers, to distinguish between the mundane attraction and relationship and the internal spiritual. He relished deeply in his heart the internal moods and the mood of service to Radha and Krishna and to the gopis themselves, saying, Gopi Bhartur Pada Kamalayo Dasa Das Anudas. I feel myself to be the servant of the servant of the servant, right? Of that Krishna, the beloved of the gopis. See, I am the servant of those gopis, not just I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the gopis, right? Showing us this very deep mood of the joy of service, not just to Krishna, but to Krishna's devotees, right? And no connection with the mundane at all. And there's so many pastimes to illustrate that. Now he also quotes Srimad Bhagavatam, again that 33rd chapter of the 10th canto, after the Rasa Lila, Anugrahaya Bhaktanam Manusam Dehamashrita Bhajate Taddarshi Krita Yashudva Tatparo Bhavet. This is also quoted in the Chaitanya Charitamrita by Krishna's Kaviraj, and he gives his own explanation of this. The translation is, in order to bestow mercy upon his devotees, the Supreme Lord, Bhagavan Sri Krishna, manifests his all-enchanting Krishna form, and assuming a human-like personal form, he engages in love-filled pastimes, such as the Rasa Lila. By the sadhak bhaktas hearing such pastimes from Srimad Bhagavatam, they will come under the guidance, anugatya, of those same Braja Gopis, and take full shelter of these pastimes. Right? Coming under the shelter of the Braja Gopis, this is the only way to gain access. And this is stated also by Ramananda Roy. This can only be taught and revealed by those who are gopis themselves. Only by the mercy of the gopis can one enter into this. Right? And so thus our Guru Parampara, the line that we're coming from, through Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, to Rupa Goswami, we are Rupanugas. And Rupa Goswami is the topmost servitor of Srimati Radhika, Rupa Manjari. And our Parampara, from the time of Rupa and Sanatan, our principal acharyas, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Narottam, Srinivas Shamananda, these great acharyas, Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, they are all known to be Manjaris in this line. We talk about Srila Prabhupada, some people argue, oh no, he was a cowherd boy. But others, greatly advanced devotees, have indicated otherwise. And of course, how could he teach this topmost if he were not a member of that group himself? But that doesn't matter. However one wants to see Srila Prabhupada according to their own mood and aspiration, that's also acknowledged in Jaiva Dharma, but it doesn't change the fact that he himself is on that topmost platform, but being on that topmost platform, he can also manifest the moods of Sakyaras or Vatsalya or Dasya because they're all included. And in fact, in the Jaiva Dharma, it's described that we've heard about the Vyabhichari, the Sanchari Bhavs, the subsidiary emotional expressions of love, how they can be very, very powerful in the moment of service. And so powerful that they completely overwhelm even the Sthayi Bhav, and they become prominent. Like the ocean is very vast and flat, but sometimes a great wave will come up, and that's all you see, the wave. So in Madura Rasa, one of the Sanchari Bhavs is the mood of Sakya Rasa itself. Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains in Jaiva Dharma. So, great devotees, like our Srila Prabhupada, he sometimes expressed this mood of Sakya Ras directly, but that's not inconsistent. And it can be for different reasons. It can be because of his own internal mood, or it can be because of the level or the aspiration of that disciple. Like Brajanath saw Gopal Guru as a representative of Subal, right? Whereas Vijay Kumar saw him as a representative of Lalita, Saki, right? So is one wrong and one right? No. No, these great personalities, they come for all of us. And then again, especially Srila Prabhupada, when he was teaching us in those days, our level of understanding was so low. And as we're hearing all these warnings about the study of Parakiya Ras and Gopi Bhav and all of that, you have to practice for a while and be grave and study this carefully. Otherwise, very easy to slip into the material misconception. And so he's also protecting us and giving us bhakti, as it's described here. It's understood even in the heart of the sadhak in gradual development. Right? We develop gradually in these moods. So he's teaching appropriately. Of course he was. So, by the sadhak bhaktas hearing such pastimes from Srimad Bhagavatam, and the pastimes he's talking about are the Rasa Lila, because he just completed that. They will come under the guidance of those same Braja Gopis and take full shelter of these pastimes. This is called Raganuga Bhakti. At the time of sadhana, this is called sadhana lakshana bhakti. Bhakti is the means of the process. And at time of perfection, such practice will be called siddha lakshana bhakti, the goal itself. By appropriate practices and the mercy of Sri Krishna himself, one will attain the ultimate fruit of entrance into these pastimes. With careful attention and being devoid of duplicity, it is most essential to taste the ras of such pastimes. This is like a Bhavanuvad, an expanded translation, which Srila Prabhupada would also do sometimes. In the Caitanya Charitamrita, it's more condensed. Out of mercy, the Lord will appear and manifest extraordinary pastimes for the benefit of the devotee. Anugrahaya bhaktanam, right? Out of mercy and compassion. And then he says, by hearing such pastimes, meditating on them, bhajate tadashri krita, yat shrudva tat pado bhavet. One must engage in the Lord's devotional service. Yashrudva tat pado bhavet. Now, that could mean two things. On the level of sadhana, by hearing such pastimes, we become philosophically convinced, right? Our faith will increase and we'll be inclined under the rules and regulations of bhakti, vaidhi bhakti, to perform pastimes for this goal. Okay? And Krishna's Kaviraj describes this in his own explanation of the verse. One must engage in these pastimes, but on the higher platform of Raganuga, it means that by hearing such pastimes, one is spontaneously compelled in the heart by one's own nature to engage in service. So both in the sadhana stage and in the perfected stage, hearing these pastimes, yashrudva tatparo bhavet, we have to do this, right? We have to do it. And even now, being a conditioned soul, still when I read these kinds of verses, and I'm sure you feel the same thing, you just go, I have to become a devotee. Oh, why can't I be a devotee? Oh, I have to do this service. We're developing an anxiety, an urgency, a desire is awakening in our heart. And hearing these pastimes appropriately, anugraha, anu means to follow, right? Anugatya, to follow, hearing appropriately from qualified persons, that natural tendency will awaken. And by hearing this Caitanya Siksamrta Ch7 how to cultivate this mood properly, is also being taught, right? So, and then he quotes Rupa Goswami in Sri Ujjvala Nilamani, Pratitavyam samichad bir bhaktavanto Krishnavat. One should not try to imitate the Lord, but simply try to carry out his instructions as described in the devotional scriptures, such as the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then there's one more verse which is very insightful. How Rupa Goswami extracted this understanding from all these different parts of the Bhagavatam. This is from the 47th chapter. And I'm thinking this is the meeting of Uddhava with the gopis when he went to pacify them. And this is a slightly expanded translation. Ya dusjajam svajanam aryapatam chahitva bejir mukunda padavim shuti bir vrimyagyam. The good fortune of the gopis of Vrindavan is unparalleled. And no one can attain mercy such as they have. Oh yeah, it says, if I, Uddhav, could take birth as a bush, a creeper, or medicinal herb, or indeed have any birth here in Vrindavan, and I could also attain the service of the dust of their lotus feet, then I will attain great good fortune. These gopis have abandoned the family ties of their husbands, sons, mothers, fathers, which is dusjajam, svajanam, very difficult to renounce. They have also rejected aryapatam, or the path of proper behavior. In other words, the Maya, the religious principles and etiquette, and are serving the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, for whom even the personified Vedas are searching. Those lotus feet bestow the highest prema upon those who attain them. Uddhava is saying this, and Uddhava is the most learned personality in Dwarka. He's the topmost devotee practically in Dwarka. Very dear to Krishna as a friend, as a minister, and as the chief disciple of Brihaspati, he knows all scripture, all dharma. And he was sent by Krishna to Vrindavan to carry a message to the gopis who are experiencing such separation, messages about their meeting at the time of Rasa Leela and other things, and even more, so that perhaps Uddhava, through the association with the gopis, could understand something of that Braj Prem and thus understand something of Krishna's separation from them and help to soothe him while he is in Dwarka. Because the gopis were in separation, but they had each other, right? To console and to chant and remember and talk about Krishna's Leela together. And thus that separation in their heart created a special kind of ecstasy in meeting in separation. Viraha, separation means special kind of meeting. So they could continually meet with Krishna in their hearts by discussing the katha together, but Krishna had no one. His separation, his sacrifice was even greater. They call him cruel for leaving for Dwarka and leaving the gopis, but he never left the gopis. He was always in Braj, appearing to them in Spurti and appearing to them in their hearts, in their remembrance, in their katha. But who did he have to help him in that time of separation? He could only longingly look over the parapets of the castles towards Vrindavan, so hoping Uddhava could understand. But Uddhava, as great a devotee as he was in Dwarka, could not grasp the love of Nanda and Jashoda when he tried to pacify them, or the gopis. He could understand that it was very great, like a man who goes to the base of a very high mountain, and he looks up and he's tilting his head up and up and up, so high up, trying to see the top of the peak. His hat falls off and he can't see it. He can't see it. This is what the gopis' love was for him. He could understand that it was great, but it was, at the same time, awe-inspiring and terrifying. One time in 1998, Srila Narayan Raj had come to Oakland, and there was a week-long retreat at a monastery there. Hundreds of devotees. It was really nice. And one of the topics he was talking about was this Uddhava Gita, the instructions and the pastimes of Uddhava and the gopis. And he was talking about Uddhava's inability to understand, or I had some confusion listening to him, and I said, if Uddhava understood, we were on a morning walk, and I asked him, if Uddhava understood that the gopis were the topmost, then why didn't he pray to become a gopi? Why did he just pray to be the dust of a bush or a creeper? And why did he return? and Srila Narayan Raj said, when he saw the separation of the gopis, the intensity of their love and its expression, especially Srimati Radhika, it made him very afraid. It was so powerful. Couldn't understand it. And so he ran back to Mathura. And of course, he was requested to go back to be with Krishna, but he couldn't grasp it. It's not an intellectual exercise. Only one in the body of a gopi can understand the moods of the gopis. And in Jivadharma, the description of that meditation, how it first begins, when you're first acquainted with that identity in Ekadash Bhavs, it takes time. And internally, even, you're developing more and more understanding of that mood and service. And ultimately, you have to take birth in Gokula Vrindavan, Boma Vrindavan, where Krishna's having his pastimes, and there fully perfect that role and identity under the guidance of the Nityasiddha gopis, or the Sadhan-siddha gopis, the perfected gopis, like the gopis that were performing the Katyani Vrat. This was a step in their perfection, complete perfection, even though they were already imbued with such great prema that they were qualified to take birth in Vrindavan, and from their very birth were always hearing about Krishna and meditating on him. Still, there's such a refinement of that mentality and of that identity and of that love that even there some were required to go through even further purification. So it's quite amazing. So Uddhava is saying, those lotus feet of the gopis bestow the highest prema. The lotus feet of Sri Krishna and the lotus feet of the gopis. Actually, they are themselves the dust on Krishna's lotus feet, and the dust from their feet is also beneficial. So, he goes on. Where did we leave off here? So, who is qualified to see this and understand this? He says, amongst millions of liberated souls, to find a devotee of the Lord is very rare. Even the devotee interested in the majestic aspect of the Lord cannot see Goloka. After getting liberation from material existence, according to their mood, they attain service to the majestic form of the Lord in Vaikuntha. Gopakumar visited Vaikuntha, and the inhabitants there could not understand why he wanted to remain dressed as a cowherd boy and go to some other place. They were completely fixed in the conception that the highest form of the Lord, the best form of worship, is in Vaikuntha. And they were satisfied in that, and that's all right. But they couldn't grasp Gopakumar's sentiments or his unhappiness that he manifested from time to time, his discontent. Narad could understand it. Narad went there, Narayan himself, Lord Narayan himself, could understand it, and sometimes pacified him by showing him Gopakumar a two-armed form, and even manifesting cowherd boys to dance with. But that wasn't the place, because he couldn't render service to that Lord Narayan as he wanted. He could not. Amongst those who worship Krishna in the Rasa of Braj, only those upon whom Krishna bestows mercy, by liberating them from the endless chain of bondage, are able to see Goloka. Only by Krishna's mercy. By the mercy of Krishna, the devotee who attains Vastu Siddhi is brought to Goloka. Vastu Siddhi means your perfected spiritual form. Those who are Swarup Siddhi become situated within the Braj of the material world with the identity of a gopi. Those who are covered completely by the mode of ignorance see everything materially, even when performing their worship in the mood of Braj. Those sadhaks covered by the mode of passion can see a little better. Those devotees in the mode of goodness realize a reflection of Goloka when they see the earthly Gokul. By the mercy of Krishna, the devotees of Braj, who are beyond the modes of nature, very quickly obtain Goloka, the spiritual world, with the body of a gopi, which is devoid of the gunas. So in that paragraph, he said something very interesting, that you can aspire for Braj, have some awakening to that, and even practice bhakti. But be still at the stage where your parabdha karma, you are kind of like in a mode of ignorance, right? And you're going to see everything materially. You may even be in an institution and even have a position, even the role of a teacher. But you might be in a mode of ignorance, and that's understand bhakti and its principles materially, right? Or you might be a little more elevated and be in the mode of passion and see things a little better. It's only when we come to the mode of goodness that things become more clear and we get a better glimpse. And that's when we are, we're situated in madhyam and moving towards, moving into asakti and moving towards bhav bhakti, right? But still not situated in Shuddha Sattva. So, understand that just because somebody's taken up bhakti doesn't mean that they are automatically transcendental. They may still be afflicted by the modes of nature. And the only protection from inappropriate activity is always following the order of Sri Guru. If you're always following the order of Sri Guru, then you're protected, right? And you're on the proper path doing the right thing. But otherwise, you may slip into modes of ignorance. Sometimes I discuss stories of our early days and what we used to do with different devotees. And sometimes the things that devotees would do were quite abominable. I mean, just can't believe it. Because we were just rowdy boys, I don't know what the girls did, but I know rowdy boys, we sometimes did crazy things. And that was because of, the influence of these other modes. But fortunately, Srila Prabhupada, he's so protective. He gave us such service and the inspiration to do this 24 hours, and the rules and regulations that kept us on the straight and narrow were mostly protected, right? So that's the mercy of Guru. That's the mercy of Guru, which we can never completely repay, right? Can never completely repay. The only way to repay Guru is to take up what he came to do, right? To educate and protect devotees, to spread this bhakti, this Krishna consciousness. Then we can repay our Guru. So, by the mercy of Krishna, the devotees of Braj, who are beyond the modes of nature, very quickly obtained Goloka, the spiritual world, with a body of a gopi, which is devoid of the gunas, very quickly. Goloka becomes directly realized to the extent that one becomes free from materialistic concepts caused by Maya. Okay, wait, but there's something here there. Very quickly. Who's very quickly gets this? The devotees of Braj who are beyond the modes of nature. Right? What is the couple of verses? Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vigyanam mukta sangasya jayate. Right? Those devotees. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vigyanam. That's when they get genuine realization in the heart and become situated in a position beyond the modes of material nature, liberated from that. Right? Before that, what was it? Said from Rajas Tama'iti, the verse just before that in the Bhagavatam, talking about being situated in the material mode of goodness, which is very good, very progressive, right? I mean, I aspire for that. As I'm sure we all, but we want to go on and on and on and on. So he's saying that it's not just automatic. We come from those of the Western world, we come from a kind of a Judeo-Christian background, and we, most people have been educated with a conception of you practice religion, and in the next life you're automatically, after death, you're automatically promoted, right? If you just follow properly. But that they have no understanding of the idea of transmigration of the soul, and the soul has to go through sufficient births to become completely purified and detached. It's not just one birth. And Srila Prabhupada made that clear as well, so many places. You have to be completely pure. At any rate, so Goloka becomes directly realized to the extent that one becomes free from materialistic concepts caused by Maya. Yashoda's giving birth, Krishna's place of birth, the marriage of the eternally liberated gopis with cowherd men such as Abhimanyu and Govardhan, that would be Govardhan Mala, and others, which give rise to the mood of parakiya, appear to be very gross when performed within the earthly realm of Braj. But these events all occur by the influence of Yogamaya, with specific, subtle spiritual intentions behind them. They are absolutely true and are a perfect replica of the spiritual world of Goloka. In Goloka, those same events are eternally present, only in the forms of moods, which nourish the rasas. So Krishna doesn't take birth in Goloka Vrindavan or grow through the different stages. He's eternal, beautiful youth. Demons aren't there in Vrindavan, Goloka Vrindavan. The gopis don't actually have the husbands. Radhika doesn't have Abhimanyu. He's not there in that form. Govardhan Mala, Chandravali's husband's not there. But they have the conception. This is difficult to grasp. But when they hear the Leela recited of their Leela in this Gokul Vrindavan, it's them. They're the same people. It's kind of like this is how that mood endures, because they actually have these husbands, they have these demons, all these things are going on, but they're going on in this Dham. And this Dham is non-different from that Dham, but they have different specialities. So this Dham, can't have a completely accurate way to describe this because we're using material words and it's beyond our current realization. But this Dham creates the circumstance by which those moods have their own reality. Imperfect description, but that's the moods are there, and the actual husbands and demons are here. But both Dhams, these eternal devotees, are experiencing pastimes in both. So both are real. But in that Goloka Vrindavan, they exist as moods and nourish the rasa. So it's complete and perfect there, and it's complete and perfect here. Just some subtle differences. Those who are aspirants for service to Krishna during the eightfold daily pastimes in the mood of gopis must take support of earthly braj. According to the amount of mercy they receive from Krishna, accordingly they will automatically obtain purity in their service. One may ask, do the pastimes of Braj Gokul remain at the time of universal dissolution? That's a good question, right? If this place where they take place, pastimes take place, is dissolved, what happens to this dham? Does it have a place? The answer is that at that time, all the pastimes remain present only within the spiritual world of Goloka. Only by the appropriate practice of Ashtakala Saran, mentally performing service in one's spiritual body during the 24 hours of Krishna's pastimes, does the devotee achieve the Nitya Lila, the eternal daily pastimes of Krishna. During the time when the material creation is manifest, the Braj pastimes rotate from one universe to another like a spinning wheel. At the time of final devastation, all of the pastimes return to Goloka. During the unmanifest pastimes of Krishna, he may disappear from the earth, but Braj and Mathura remain for the benefit of the devotees performing sadhana. They remain rotating from one universe till the next like a wheel. The discussion only goes up to this point, and now we will expand the primary subject. So that's very interesting. Very, very interesting. That the pastimes in this world, the Gokul Vrindavan pastimes, are specifically meant also for the sadhak. And we take shelter of those pastimes. We go to that dham and meditate and perform service and take the mercy of the dham there. Krishna shows his Leela to the conditioned souls in the various universes, like the sun shows itself in different parts of the world at different times. It's sunrise at one point, it's noon at another point, it's darkness at another point. Krishna's Leela is going on in some universe. In some universe right now, he's taking birth. In another universe, he may be a few years old. In another universe, he may have gone to Dwarka. But all of the pastimes are eternally existing while the universes are manifest. But at the time of complete dissolution, which would be when Lord Brahma is finished, right, then everything is wound up, right? And then those pastimes exist in Goloka Vrindavan, the eternal Goloka Vrindavan, as an abhiman, as a conception, right? And then they manifest again at the time of creation. And Krishna's purpose of creation is multiple, right? It's a place for the conditioned souls to independently enjoy according to their situation, but more than that, it's a place for their deliverance. And Krishna comes down in all different forms, all different kinds of avatars, to approach all the conditioned souls and show himself to awaken service according to the mood that they aspire for. Lord Brahma explains that in the third canto. Is it 23rd chapter? Anyway, according to you appear as an avatar according to the desire of the devotees in the mood in which they wish to serve you. Right? So he appears in all those different forms, and ultimately, once in a day of Brahma, he also appears in his original Lord Krishna form, very rare. And that gives us this extraordinarily special opportunity, right? Which hopefully we're taking advantage of at this time. Okay, so we'll continue. Now, we'll stop here. Offer obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, our Guru Parampara, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. May the full import and mercy of the holy name of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Sri Advaita, Sri Gadadhar, Srivas, and all the Gaur Bhaktivinodas, and Sri Radha Krishna manifest in our heart. Okay, Gaur Premanande, Hari Bol.